To the fans of the MCU, the name Morbius might be an unfamiliar one. Morbius is a man who gave himself a form of vampirism to help treat a blood disease he had. He was initially portrayed as a villain for Spider-Man to face, but gradually became an anti-hero. With the announcement of the Morbius movie in 2022, we can surely expect an exciting movie. Stick around to learn more about Morbius and some of his best moments we hope are in the movie. Who is Morbius? Morbius, whose real name is Dr. Michael Morbius, is a villain turned anti-hero who was born with a rare blood disease. He was born and raised in Greece by a single mother and, due to his disorder, was isolated as a child. Morbius was a brilliant kid, however, and would go on to study biochemistry at a college in the United States. With his education, Morbius decided to try and rid himself of his affliction using a sample of vampire bat DNA and electroshock therapy. His treatment failed, however, and he gave himself pseudo-vampirism. This disease granted him the powers of vampires as well as their bloodlust. Morbius and Spider-Man. Morbius and Spider-Man have a long, complicated relationship with each other. Morbius debuted in the comics as a Spider-Man villain before going on to eventually getting his own comic series. One of the more interesting moments in their history, however, is the time when Morbius used Spider-Man's blood to briefly cure his disease. During one of their fights, Morbius drank some of the web slinger's blood. This resulted in Morbius briefly becoming human again and him experimenting on Spidey's blood. The vampire ultimately managed to create a serum that would cure his disease, but it was always for a limited amount of time. Morbius and Vic Slaughter. Another interesting relationship Morbius has is his relationship with the assassin turned vampire Vic Slaughter. Slaughter was originally an ex-Marine who was hired to try and kill Morbius. The two met and fought, but Morbius went on to bite Slaughter. When Morbius bites someone, they will get his disease, and Vic was no exception. Vic went on to become a vampire and swore vengeance on Morbius, continually hunting him down through the comics. Morbius fighting Carnage. With Carnage's recent debut on the big screen, fans may be able to expect a fight between Morbius and Carnage to happen. Carnage is a chaotic symbiote, focused purely on causing chaos. Morbius teamed up with several other notable figures, including Spider-Man, Captain America, and Venom during the comic book event Maximum Carnage. The team went on to fight Carnage, proving Morbius is more of an anti-hero than a true villain. Morbius and the Midnight Suns. Morbius is often depicted as more of a loner who goes about doing things his own way, mostly due to his condition. However, he's teamed up with superheroes in the past to fight villains, like the time he helped fight Carnage. Another notable time the vampire joined a team was when Morbius joined the Midnight Suns, led by Doctor Strange, to fight a demon named Lilith. Lilith was a powerful sorceress who planned on conquering the world using her children. Doctor Strange gathered up Blade, Morbius, and others to help him fight the demon. With Blade being on the Midnight Suns, that also opens the possibility of Blade entering the MCU. Blade and Morbius. Blade's another person Morbius has a complex relationship with. Due to Blade's nature as a vampire hunter, the two have both fought and worked together on several different occasions, such as the Midnight Suns arc. Something notable about their relationship in the comics, however, is how Morbius ended up turning Blade into a vampire during one of their fights. When Blade was bitten, he became a daywalker, which is essentially a vampire who can freely walk during the day and doesn't suffer from the same weaknesses as other vampires. Morbius fights Nightmare. Nightmare is the ruler of the dream dimension, which is a manifestation of humanity's collective psyche. As such, he's an insanely powerful figure within the comics. Being the dominant life form within his entire dimension, he is also faced off against the living vampire. Morbius had fed on the blood of someone when he was suddenly thrust into the dream dimension and met Nightmare, before ultimately facing off against him in combat. Morbius and Dracula. Dracula is a foe who has appeared in Marvel Comics many times before and is considered to be the strongest and most capable of all vampires. He's also faced off against Morbius on multiple occasions. In the Ultimate Universe, however, the two have a far deeper connection. Morbius's father is Vlad Dracula II, with his brother being Vlad Dracula III. This opens the potential for Dracula to possibly appear in the upcoming movie. So far, we've covered who Morbius is, as well as some of the people he's faced off with over the years, and some of his most notable adventures. Morbius entering the MCU could potentially open the door for Blade, Nightmare, and even Dracula to appear in future movies, but there's still more incredible moments from Morbius's past that could possibly show up in the film. Stick around to find find out even more moments from the living vampire. Morbius needing blood. As Morbius is a vampire, he's required to drink the blood of others for sustenance. This will no doubt be an important aspect within the movie, as it's something Morbius battles with constantly. In the comics, he's able to generally fend off the urge, but he's not always so stoic. In the storyline Legion of Monsters, Morbius gives in to his cravings and begins feasting on blood. Whether or not we'll see Morbius give in to such indulgences in the movie remains to be seen, but his bloodlust will certainly play a big role in the movie. Morbius and the Lizard. The Lizard and Morbius have a relationship that has run deep throughout the comics, with the duo fighting and working together on multiple occasions. Similar to Morbius's other relationship, their primary connection is through Spider-Man. Morbius has worked with Lizard to try and develop a cure for both of their conditions, so fans could possibly see Lizard in this latest Marvel film. Basilisk. Morbius works tirelessly to rid himself of his disease and despises the bloodlust it comes with. Basilisk, real name Wayne Gifford, is the polar opposite to this. Wayne Gifford was a serial killer who did a ritual to transform himself into a beast known as the Basilisk. Both Basilisk and Morbius have fought in the comics twice, with Morbius winning over the beast both times. Morbius fighting vampires. Morbius has fought other vampires on multiple occasions, but one of the most memorable and personally meaningful to Morbius was the time he and a few allies faced off against a coven of vampires. However, what made the group unique was the fact that Morbius had been the one to turn them all into vampires. The living vampire is able to cure those he turns by creating an antidote, using his own blood. He managed to convert all the vampires, but during the fight, his ex-girlfriend Martine had gotten bit and likewise became a vampire. Morbius was ultimately able to cure her too. Morbius gets struck by lightning. During a battle with Spider-Man, Morbius ended up getting struck by a bolt of lightning. This lightning bolt ended up curing him of his vampirism, allowing him to return to his normal human form. However, despite being cured of his affliction, his bloodlust remained. Morbius ended up being tried for several crimes and found himself in prison. The living vampire had been attempting to produce a serum to end his bloodlust, but was unsuccessful and ultimately reverted back to his usual vampiric form. Morbius's betrayal. Another interesting plot from Morbius's past is the time when he was betrayed by a secret Hydra agent. Morbius was approached by a hematologist called Dr. Andrea Jansen. Jansen believed she could cure Morbius's affliction. The living vampire went to a private island with the doctor, but found himself being experimented on. Jansen had secretly been working for a Hydra agent called Loxias Crown. Crown was aiming to weaponize the vampire's blood for Hydra. Crown's plans were thwarted though, as Morbius teamed up with Spider-Man and was rescued. However, at the end of the comic, Morbius appears to die aboard an exploding Hydra airship, only to survive along with a now vampiric Loxias Crown. Jack Russell, Werewolf by Night. Werewolves and vampires have been linked together seemingly forever now, with Marvel now reintroducing vampires into their movies. Why not go ahead and include a werewolf into the mix too? Jack Russell is a man who can turn into a werewolf at will or on full moons, will become a lycanthrope involuntarily. Russell has worked with Morbius on different occasions, including joining the Midnight Suns. With Morbius entering the MCU, a werewolf seems like it would be a good fit as well, but we'll have to see whether or not Marvel decides to roll out werewolves along with their vampires. So there you have it, some of the moments and characters we hope will show up in the new Morbius movie. Morbius is a deep and interconnected character, and his inclusion could introduce a lot of new characters and ideas to the MCU. From werewolves, vampirism, characters like Dracula and Vic Slaughter, fans have an exciting film to look forward to. So what did you think? What moments are you excited for in Morbius? Leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching.